Hi, my name is Matthew Carroll. I'm here to talk about sleep. In this lecture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the issues that we run across with sleep, talk about why it's important to sleep from both a mental and a physical standpoint, and then at the very end, talk about how we can improve our sleep. Before we actually start talking about sleep and what happens when we fall asleep, we have to understand a little bit about the statistics of sleep. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. According to the latest research, 30% of all working adults in the United States sleep less than 6 hours a night. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends that adults aged 18 to 60 years old sleep at least 7 hours each night. And according to the Sleep Research Society, less than 7 hours of sleep per day is associated with an increased risk of diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. And there's a study out there that looked at sleep, and they reported that participants who received less than 7.7 hours of sleep each night had on average an elevated BMI, or body mass index. Now that we've talked about sleep, the statistics of sleep, and how much sleep we should get and how we're getting a lack of sleep, we need to understand why sleep is important. Well, sleep helps in 2 ways. It helps both in a psychological and a physiological view. So mentally, it actually helps reduce stress, improve our memory, makes you smarter, and puts you in a better mood. From a physical point of view, it actually reduces your blood pressure, helps you fight infections, can help maintain your weight, reduce the chances of diabetes, keep your heart healthy, and be a painkiller. And so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about each of these components. We're going to first start off with mental. We're going to first start off with memory. For something to become a memory, 3 functions must occur. And these are including the acquisition, consolidation, and recall. In the acquisition, we're learning or experiencing something new. In the consolidation, the memory becomes stable in the brain. During this phase, the labile memory trace is gradually stabilized, possibly involving multiple waves of short and long-term consolidation phase processes, which serve to strengthen and integrate the memory into our pre-existing knowledge networks. And the recall is having the ability to access the memory in the future. During retrieval, the stored memory is accessed and recalled. One of the most important functions of sleep for us is the memory consolidation process. This is where the information is encoded into our brain. When we sleep, the brain shifts to a status optimal for consolidating or solidifying said information into long-term memory. Though this process, memories are strengthened and integrated into information already located in the brain. During the day, we are constantly taking in information through a process known as acquisition. During this process, outside stimuli are detected for various sensory receptors. Information is sent through to the thalamus. This is where the brain's information relay station and various parts of the cerebral cortex, which then processes this said information. The theory that sleep provides the domain for memory consolidation is further solidified by the fact that sleep deprivation can negatively impact information retention. Without adequate sleep, your brain has a harder time absorbing and recalling new information. Sleep does more than just sharpens the mind. Studies show that sleep affects the physical reflexes, fine motor skills, and judgment too. Studies involving memory tests show that after a single night of sleep or even a nap, people perform better whether on a test, in the office, or in the athletic field. Obtaining sufficient sleep can vastly improve attention, increase motivation, and reduce stress. Studies have shown that sleep and mental health are closely connected. Sleep deprivation affects your psychological state and your mental health. Sleep problems are particularly common in patients with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorders, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Although scientists are still trying to tease apart the mechanisms, they discovered that sleep deprivation will affect levels of neurotransmitters and stress hormones, among other things. This wreaks havoc in the brain, and it impairs thinking and emotional regulation. In this way, insomnia may amplify the effects of psychological disorders and vice versa. Reports show that American stress levels in 2016 was about 40% and rose to about 46% in 2017. And the Americans polled reported that they were lying awake at night due to their increased stress levels. Poor sleep can make it much more difficult to cope with relatively minor stresses. Daily hassles can turn into major sources of frustration, and you can find yourself feeling frazzled, short-tempered, and frustrated by everyday annoyances. Poor sleep itself can turn into a source of stress. You might know that you need to get a good night's sleep, but when you find yourself worrying that you won't be able to fall asleep or stay asleep each night. Hormones can actually help reduce stress. Too much stress can have the opposite effect and lead to chronic health problems. To understand why, it is important to know exactly how your body responds to stress on a physiological level. Normally, when faced with a situation of stress, your nervous system causes your body to release stress hormones, particularly cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. Here are different types of hormones that are released during stress, all with different purposes. Melatonin is released by the pineal gland, which controls your sleep pattern. Levels increase at nighttime, making you feel sleepy. Melatonin also has a seasonal rhythm to it, with higher levels in the autumn and winter because there's longer nights, and lower levels in the spring and summer, which are shorter nights. Melatonin, or the sleep hormone, is made by your pineal gland and works with cortisol. When your optic nerve detects natural light diminishing, they will send a message to your hypothalamus, which will trigger the release of melatonin to help relax, help make you feel drowsy in preparation for sleep. Generally, as melatonin levels increase, cortisol levels decrease, and vice versa. If you suffer from stress, for example, you may struggle to get to sleep at this particular moment because of an emotional factor. This can actually play as a catalyst for your fight or flight response, which in turn triggers the release of cortisol, lowering your levels of melatonin. Levels of cortisol, often called the stress hormone, decrease during the first few hours of sleep before rising to peak as soon as you wake up. When stress is long-lasting, androcorticotropic hormone within the pituitary gland attached to the base of the brain trigger the release of cortisone and cortisol from the adrenal gland. Levels of androcorticotropic hormone tend to be higher in people with insomnia than in good sleepers. This suggests that excess of arousal and ongoing stressors contribute to insomnia. Serotonin also plays an important role in sleep. Serotonin's role in regulating the sleep-wake cycle is complex. While it helps maintain sleep, it also prevents you from falling asleep. How serotonin affects sleep depends on the part of the brain it comes from and the type of serotonin receptor it binds to, and several other factors. While serotonin seems to both induce sleep and keep you up, it is a precursor to melatonin, the main hormone involved in sleep. Your body needs serotonin from your pineal gland to produce melatonin. We also see a rise in oxytocin, which is released in the brain under stress-free conditions, which naturally promote sleep. The way we want to promote good sleep is we want to reduce stress and engage in relaxing evening routines before going to bed. Now what we're going to do is talk about sleep's role on the physical body. Sleep is an essential part of the physical bodily functions, as it allows you to heal, recover, and grow. It has been linked to various physical processes such as muscular mitosis, cellular repair, and energy conservation through lowering of body temperature and blood pressure. Research shows that a chronic lack of sleep or getting poor quality of sleep increases the risk of disorders including high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, and obesity. So what I'm going to do now is talk about sleep's role on repairing the body. Sleep is a time when several of the body's hormones are released into the bloodstream. These include testosterone and growth hormone, which is an essential part for growth and tissue repair, including in adults. The secretion of these hormones and prolactin is remarkably increased during sleep, and we can see a decrease in cortisol, which I covered before. Testosterone has been implicated as one of the driving factors of muscle mass growth through muscle protein synthesis. Maintaining healthy levels of sleep can therefore increase levels of muscular regeneration and growth, quickening recovery from injury, increased strength, and muscle mass gains. Levels of testosterone are highest during sleep and require at least 3 hours of sleep to reach this peak. Dr. Lee Perowitz and Van Crowder study found that subjects were deprived of 3 hours of sleep each night for a week had a testosterone level 15% lower on average than subjects with normal sleeping patterns. Now, growth hormone is directly involved in managing metabolism, which is the body's process of converting energy and maintain, build, and repair healthy tissue in the brain and other organs and muscle tissue. Specifically, growth hormone is implicated in the complicated ways in which food is converted into energy and that the blood sugar and fats are regulated and controlled. Deficiency in growth hormone in adults have symptoms that include increased fat around the waist, reduced bone and muscle mass, thinning skin, fatigue, mood problems, and sleeping problems. The release of growth hormone is particularly dependent on the occurrence and quality of sleep. In the 1960s, it was recognized that the most producible growth hormone pulse occurred shortly after sleep onset. In men, sleep onset growth hormone pulse is generally the largest and often the only secretory pulse observed over the 24-hour span. In women, time growth hormone pulse are more frequent, and the sleep-associated pulse, although still present, does not account for the majority of the 24-hour secretory output. Hormonal events during sleep are dependent upon the quality of sleep. Sleep involves into two states of distinct neural activity that are each actively generated in specific brain regions. And in the course of a normal night of sleep, brain activity oscillates between the non-rapid eye movement stages and rapid eye movement stages. The last is cytokines. What the body does is release small proteins called cytokines, which influence our inflammation in the body. It helps when you are sick or injured. These cytokines help your body fight inflammation, infection, and trauma. Without enough sleep, your immune system might not be able to function at its best. I go into more detail in the muscle soreness lecture. Now what we're going to do is actually talk about sleep and its effect on weight and appetite. Overall body health and having sufficient sleep also helps prevent obesity and helps reduce body fat. Studies have proposed that people across all genders and ages who are deprived of sleep can be much more likely to become obese. Sleep also controls levels of hormones like insulin and cortisol so that we wake up hungry, prompting us to eat breakfast, and we are prepared for facing daytime stress. Sleep deprivation also increases the production of cortisol, which can make cells much more resistant to insulin. Most of you are probably familiar with insulin and its role it plays in regulating your blood sugar levels. This essential hormone is produced in your pancreas. It helps your body to utilize the sugar or glucose derived from your food. Glucose is a major source of energy for your body, but if you have too much in your bloodstream, it can be detrimental to your health, which is why insulin is secreted when your blood glucose levels become too high, helping you to store the glucose into your liver so that you can use it at a later date. Getting less sleep than normal, our levels of prolactin may get out of balance, and we can end up with a weakened immune system, difficulty concentrating, and carbohydrate cravings during the day. The two major hormones, ghrelin and leptin, work as a counterbalance to maintain our hunger levels in healthy humans. However, when studying participants that were sleep deprived, levels of ghrelin, which increases your appetite, were higher, while levels of leptin, which decreased appetite, were lower. Not only does sleep deprivation directly increase energy consumption by giving more time to eat, as well as decrease energy expenditure, but it also changes the hormones balance to make people hungrier. So now the question is how can we improve our sleep? What I've done here is I've actually listed 5 different ways that we can work on improving our sleep quality. The first one is actually lowering your thermostat. Dropping that thermostat between 65 and 72 degrees has shown to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. The second way is to regulate your sleep time frame. Going to bed and waking up at the same time each day will help you create a routine and regulate your sleep patterns. The third way is teaching your body to go into that parasympathetic system by controlling your breath. If you inhale for 6 seconds through the nose, hold for 4, exhale for 10, Do this for several minutes. It'll actually help reduce the sympathetic system and help allow you to calm down and relax and provide you an opportunity to go to sleep quicker. The next is removing all electronics. Having electronics in your bedroom keeps your brain active and can affect your sleep. The last one is to skip your nightcap. Downing a drink or two before you go to bed makes it harder for you to fall asleep and stay asleep. It impacts your sleep cycles, negatively influencing your ability to get into that REM sleep, which is highly restorative time within your sleep cycle. This causes you to wake up feeling exhausted. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at mcarroll@teamaxos.com. I want to thank you for listening to this lecture, and I want you to have a fantastic rest of your day.